Welcome to the Encourager Podcast with me, Rebekah Scott. I believe that if you desire an active, impactful role in your children's lives while simultaneously wanting to provide an income for your family, then being a mompreneur is exactly what you need to work at home. The Encourager Podcast is my way of inspiring and motivating you with insightful knowledge, tips, and advice from myself and other successful working women who want to put their families first. Grab a pen or get your brain ready to take notes for this week's powerful episode. Hello, on today's podcast, I am going to talk to you guys about priorities. I've mentioned this before in a lot of my podcasts that I'm really adamant about setting your priorities. And I thought, well, maybe I should share what my priorities are and go into a little bit more detail about them so that will help you and encourage you in setting priorities and getting ideas for how you will set yours. So first, you need to make your list of priorities. And priorities is just the things that are very important to you. So to figure those out, it's easy to write down what's important to you, but sometimes which one is more important than another one? And how do you figure out that order? So for me, my priorities are that I'm a servant of God. That's very important to me. I couldn't do anything that I do, including being a wife, a mother, or an owner, if I didn't serve him first. So I'm a servant to God. Then I'm a wife to Nicholas, and it's important that I prioritize our marriage because that needs to come before our children, and it naturally did come before our children. And then I'm also a mother, and I need to prioritize that before I am an owner and designer because they are frankly more important. And then I'm the owner and designer of Rebekah Scott Designs. So in order to figure out your own priorities, ask yourself, what is important to you? And then if that is still a little not narrowing it down enough, what are deal breakers for you? So, for me, divorce is a deal breaker. We got to make it through. We vowed. So if I was doing things that would cause us to go down that path, then I'm not prioritizing the right things. Another deal breaker for me would be only 4 hours with the kids at night. If I had to go away to work and then come home, that would, for me personally, that's a deal breaker. I refuse to only spend that much time with them during a day. Or working 100-hour weeks. That's also a deal breaker for me. That's just not going to work. So I need to prioritize my family. So that kind of helped me narrow down, what are deal breakers and what are they for you? Maybe yours would be moving away from family. That's a deal breaker. You need to be near your mom and your dad and your siblings, or you need to be by the coast, or you need to be by the mountains. What are your deal breakers? And when you know what your deal breakers are, they will help to determine what your priorities are. So to delve into a little bit more detail about what my priorities are. So first, I'm a servant of God. So how do I make sure that I prioritize that in my life? So I do devotions in the morning. I usually do them after I put Gus on the bus. We are in school mode now. So I read a very short devotional. It's from the Guidepost book. I got it from my mom secondhand. And I read that devotional, and then I read also an affirmation sheet. And then I spend time in prayer while I'm running and spend time in prayer throughout the day. But that's the devotion that I do in the morning. I also do my gratitude practice where I say 5 things before my feet hit the floor. I say 5 things in the car before I turn the radio on. I say 5 things at night that I'm grateful for when I step out the door. That's another way that I prioritize God and being a servant of Him is putting in my grateful practices during the day in my devotional. Funny thing, I didn't realize, I'd started to do it on my own, but I didn't realize my 2-year-old Rosalind was picking up on it so much. But I walk outside, I raise my hands to the heavens and say, oh, thank you for this day. Or I say, it's glorious. Pretty cheesy, obviously, but it feels good and it reminds the kids that this is a gift. Every day is a gift. We walk outside and Rosalind stumbles with her 2 unmatching boots, of course, raises her hands to heaven and says, it's glorious. It was awesome. Just that she takes a moment to recognize, and it was not glorious outside. It was kind of dreary, and it was not glorious in her words, but I love that she is in the practice of that already. Another thing that I do is the pray without ceasing. It's important to it's kind of like the gratitude. It starts to become a practice where I just rattle it off. And so when people say, I'm praying for you, I earnestly mean that. I will start in that moment praying and then also praying during their difficult time. I ask them what time their interview is for or when they'll be going through whatever the trial is because it reminds me to be in prayer for others. And also just as I'm sewing, I have that privilege with my job that I can pray while I sew. So that's another way that I prioritize God in my life. We also teach our kids scripture and we do a devotional at night. Our devotional for the kids is called keysforkids.org, and it's just a devotional that I print out every night and we read it at the dinner table. I should make this on a scale that everyone can understand. I said every night, but good gravy, it is not every night. We do the devotional probably 3 to 4 nights a week, just schedules and circumstances, but about 3 to 4 nights a week. I try to print that off, and then I just keep it so that if I don't have time to print it off, I just refer back to an old one. I also pray with my husband because it's important for us both to connect on that level as well. And I also ask myself often from a book that I was reading that, is it wise? So a way that I can prioritize God in my daily decisions and choices with motherhood and business owner and wife, I ask myself, is this wise? So that's another way of prioritizing him. So then my second thing that I get to do is I get to be a wife to Nicholas. And I met my husband 17 years ago at church camp. And I got out of my van with my twin sister and another set of twins, and I saw this cute little junior counselor walk up, and he said he would like to carry my bags to my cabin, and the rest is history. I fell in love the end of the week. Listen, I'm 13, so let's put this in framework. I'm 13 years old, but he carried my bags all week. I just stared at him. I thought he was the most awesome thing ever, and he was super charismatic and had a great smile and super into God, and I just thought he was amazing. Anyways, I told my mom at the end of the week, I know the man I'm going to marry, kind of flippantly, but here we are. Now, we obviously didn't start dating then. We were young. He was a junior counselor. I was a camper. We didn't do any fraternizing, as they say, or anything like that, but I kept in contact with him throughout the years. And then my mom said, you should call Rebekah Scott when he was in college, because I was having a rough time in high school. And I was like, no way. I'm not calling Nick Scott. He's not talking to me. There's no way. And she looked up his number. So my mom set us up. But it's been awesome ever since. We have struggles just like every single marriage. But our foundation was that we met at church camp. And we're actually heading out to the Black Hills to celebrate where we met pretty soon here. So in order to prioritize Nicholas in my life, oh, side note, he also proposed to me at the same church camp. We counseled it together for 16 years, whether we were going or counseling. He proposed at the campfire in front of 165 little campers. It was pretty special and kind of, there were 13-year-old girls because it's the same camp that I went to. And so they were all squealing with so much delight that I could barely hear the words that were coming out of his mouth. It was the best. Anyways, okay, so in order to prioritize Nicholas in my life, I ask him in the morning, how can I help? The word Eve in the Bible means helpmate. We are to be their helpers. So I asked Nick in the morning, how can I help today? And we farm, and then he also owns his own business. He owns an excavator, and he digs a bunch of holes and all kinds of work, whatever you can do with this big equipment. So I asked, how can I help today? Is it something that I need to pick up? Is it something that you're craving food-wise? Do you need your jeans hemmed? Whatever it is, how can I help? And then I also just make sure that I serve him throughout the day, whether it's making him lunch so he can get out the door quicker, providing him with supper, a hot meal at the end of the day, keeping the house picked up so he feels relaxed when he comes in. I keep a happy face on. Because it's joyous to come into a house that is full of energy and full of life. And I try to pick up after him without grumbling, which, believe me, I'm normal too. That gets a little intense. But if you change it around and have better attitude about it, you know what? I'm so grateful I have a husband to pick up after, and that I can even serve him by picking up his dirty socks and having a different attitude about it. I know it seems strange, but you'll end up liking it. Not picking up the socks, but the act of serving, you will like them. That's why I like cooking and I like baking, because I feel like it's a very simple way of nurturing my family's body and nurturing their souls in some way too. Like the smell of hot bread, you know what that does to you, or the smell of cookies. It's a way of nurturing my family. I also try to be as encouraging as I can for Nicholas. Working for yourself, as I know, is difficult, and so we have to encourage one another. I date him. We didn't really start dating in the first part of marriage when we first had kids, but then we started prioritizing it. Like, we need to go on a date at least like twice a month. I'd love to do it 4 times a month, but funds in life just kind of get in the way. So we definitely date each other now and try to get a sitter or arrange something so that we can get away, just the two of us. Now, we still haven't gotten to the stage where we're really good about not talking about kids and life or whatever on the date. We still do that, but we also just reminisce and just connect. I also need to speak his love language in order to prioritize him. So if you can find out what your partner's love language is, I encourage you to read the book, The 5 Love Languages. It's great. They also have one for children. Fantastic. It is so good. Anyways, I read the one for Nicholas. He is like 100% physical touch, and he always has been since he was little. He's just very reassuring. He'll put his hand on you and encourage you. And so it's not about sex. It's just about being close and physical touch. It's encouraging to him, and it means that you love him. So that I can do when he walks in the door. I give him a kiss and a hug willingly and encouragingly. I love to do that. And his other love language, but not quite as much as physical touch, is quality time. And quality time is hard for me, really hard, because you're like just supposed to be together, like not doing anything. It's I know it's why God put us together, because it slows me down. It's another way of humbling me. I'm like, why does it have to be quality time? Because if I get super busy or I think I can get some more done, he's like, hey, would you like to spend some time with me? And then I'm like, oh yeah, of course I do. So I'm just telling it like it's real, but it does force me to slow down and be with him and speak his language. I also do a lot of thanking him. And he does the same for me, but thanking him for the farm situation that I'm living on, that I live East River where my business can thrive, that he gave me these beautiful children, and also just respecting him as much as I can, letting him lead and make decisions, and involving him in my day-to-day stuff. Now, believe me, he tells me when he's like, it's over my head, honey, I don't want to hear it, but I try to involve him in as much as the business as I can so that he can understand where I'm coming from. A book that I would highly recommend for you to be able to serve with a happy heart would be A Woman After God's Own Heart. It is really good about how to serve and encourage your partners. Number 3, I am a mommy, and oh boy, do I love being a mommy. I had no idea it would change my life the way it did. And I know that's like, everybody says that, but seriously, within like 20 minutes of giving birth to Gus, I walked out of the bathroom and said to Nicholas, I'm pretty sure I want to have a lot of these, because I was just over the moon in love. And it's not all roses, believe me, but I really do like being a mom. It's something that has just warmed my heart, and I'm just so glad that God allowed me to be a mommy. So in order to prioritize that, going back to the deal breakers that I talked about, for me, when I had him, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I had started my business. I started about a year before he was born, and I wanted to make sure I could get it up and running at a pace that I could control and have children at home and to make some money. So it was a deal breaker for me if I had to go to work. I just did not want to leave my child. And thankfully, it was an option for me to be able to stay at home. And so I prioritize being a mom by I quit at lunchtime so that I can do game time and prepare them lunch. I also quit for supper, and we do night stuff together. I always wake them up with a happy song. That's also how they know that I love what I'm doing. I keep the house pretty happy and pretty safe. Now, believe me, we are not accident free by any means, but I also keep the house judgment free. And what I mean by that is that when they come in the door and they say something really funny or goofy or immature or whatever, that you just embrace it and you say, oh my goodness, that's silly. Well, not like getting really down on them about, I can't believe you just said that. And, you know, I'm trying to describe this in a way of just keep things positive, keep things light. The realm of your home is in your control, women. It isn't completely in your control. So the atmosphere that you put out, even on your face and in your mannerisms and in the way you prepare your home, is how they will take that in their growing years. So make it positive and make it happy. That's how I prioritize being a mommy. I also give lots of hugs and kisses and lots of words. I like to say to my children as much as possible, you are worth it. I want them to feel an inner confidence, and I want them to know that they are worthy. I try to stay interested in their thing. So Gus's is definitely sports. His hand-eye coordination has been off the charts since he was itty-bitty. So he does a lot of sports around, and I love to encourage him and see, like, how many pull-ups can you do now? And, like, whatever his thing is. Ivy loves drawing. Rosie is too, so we're just, at this point, just trying to keep up with her. She's a bona fide cowgirl. She loves her horses. And Pixon at 7 months, obviously, is just her snuggles. So I prioritize her by making sure that I snuggle throughout the day, taking the time when I'm breastfeeding not to scroll anything on my phone, but just to be fully present with her as she nurses. And then also teaching my children priorities. The 3 that we have in our house are honesty, kindness, and humbleness. And we talk to them frequently about the Scotts are humble, the Scotts are kind, and the Scotts are honest, and just doing my best to help them prioritize those 3 things before they leave our home. Kids spell love Time. I think that's so profound. My Aunt Janelle gave me that, and I just thought that's so profound. That really is how they spell love. It's not the quality time, whether we're going on big expensive vacations or going here or going there. It's actually the quantity of time that we spend with them. And I know you don't want to hear that. It's tough. It is so hard with everything that the world tells us that we need to prioritize. But when I do a puzzle on the floor on any given Friday, Wednesday, Tuesday night, they will remember that more than they'll remember running to lessons and running to events or whatever it is. Now, believe me, they remember Sky Zone, those kind of things. But really the one-on-one time that I spend with them, that will be what they remember when they are older. So just remember that. Kids spell love Time. And fourth and final, but definitely one of my favorite, as of all of them, I get to be owner and designer of Rebekah Scott Designs. So I get to block out time for work. You have heard me talk about our schedule. I go from 8:30 to 11, 1:30 to 6. Sometimes I have to do the weekends because the truth is sometimes you need to prioritize some business stuff if it's the harvest season of your business or whatever it may be. But I block out time for it. I also prioritize that by picking 2 top priorities in my company. And for me, it's customer service and quality. And customer service is just that we know our customers and we know them well. And we have worked for years to get to know them even better. And I am really quite strict on quality and how well they are made and how we back up our product. So I picked 2 things, just two things for my business that was really important to me. And I encourage you in your own business, just pick 2. There's companies that can pick 7 to 10, but how can you enforce 7 to 10? Really, you can't. Pick 2. What 2 can you pick for your business that will help to move you forward and that are manageable for you? I also only do 10 shows a year. Now, we run to art shows, and I say we, meaning my twin sister and I, or whoever I can convince to come with me in Jerry, which is our cargo van. We do about 10 shows a year. We could do every weekend. We know lots of people who do, but that is not an option for me. That does not allow me to prioritize Nicholas or my family or God for that matter. It's just too much. So I prioritize only 10 shows a year, and I treat my business as a gift from God who allows me to thrive at it. Every day I walk into my studio space and go, oh my goodness, thank you, God. I still get to live this life that I love, that I have worked hard for, but don't kid yourself. It's only because He's allowing me to continue with it. So another way that I also prioritize my business is I make sure that it is manageable growth and achievable success. Right now with my company, we're experiencing some serious growth spurts and maybe growth spurts and growth pains. We're having to reevaluate how many orders are coming in and how to manage all of it, which is great and wonderful. And I'm extremely uncomfortable, which is not good for me because I really like being comfortable. But I know when I'm uncomfortable that I am growing, and I know that God will lead me to where I need to be. I have trust, and I'm going to have faith instead of fear, which can you tell that I'm kind of convincing myself as I'm saying this as well? Believe me, I'm there. So that's how I prioritize my business. I just make sure that it's manageable for my family and it's success that will continue to help all of my other priorities because it is number 4, not number 1, but number 4. So just to wrap up, write down what are your priorities. Maybe there's not 4, maybe there's only 2, maybe there's 6, but what is the order of your priorities? Ask yourself, what are deal breakers? Maybe also you want to prioritize your extended family, your siblings, your mom and dad, your grandparents. Maybe you want to prioritize your home. Oh, good gravy. I love DIY. I love painting. So that would probably be number 5. I love to decorate and do things like that. Maybe you want to prioritize your home in there as well, or prioritize your garden or your hobbies or your recreation, whatever it is, but write it down and figure out how you can add that into your week and prioritize that. Establish your orders and your routines and your habits around those things. Think of little things that you can do each day to make sure that each one of your priorities is being met. Now, this may seem like a lot, and how in the world is she doing it? But I will keep doing my best to describe it to you because it is doable. This is very doable. I am not only sleeping 2 hours a night. I am sleeping a good 7.5 hours a night. I am. You can do this. Just do it slowly. Start with one thing and then master that and then move on to the next. You can do this, but prioritize. Keep at it. And then, as I'm going to start doing, we're always going to have a keeping it real moment, okay? My keeping it real moment this week was, we get to the grocery store. I've got all the girls up. I left the house at 7:30 a.m. I did do their hair. They did have their teeth brushed even. And I also was the same. I got up early, got myself ready, got out the door, put them all in their car seats, got to the grocery store. Rosalind has 2 different pair of boots on, and not just like 2 cute pairs. Like one is full of farm boot, which you know what I'm trying to say. And then the other one is like a mud boot, totally non-matching, both lefts, no big deal. I'm like, oh, well, it could be no shoes, so at least we had 1 pair of shoes on, but I had to clap them out in the grocery store parking lot because I'm not sure what I would have been bringing in. So I'm just keeping it real so you understand. I get it. I have been there. So I hope you feel encouraged, and until next time, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the show so that the latest episode will always be conveniently available on your device. You can also find the show notes on my website at shoprsd.com. That's shop with R as in Rebecca, S as in Scott, and D as in designs.com. The Encourager podcast tab is at the bottom of my website, which holds some great resources, like my recommended book page, how to rate and review my podcast, and reflection guides that correspond with each episode. Do your homework. Each review and rating is so valuable to us. I sincerely hope you feel encouraged and empowered to tackle anything that comes your way this week. Remember to be grateful, humble, and kind. Then joy will come ushering in. Until next time on The Encourager.